Hey everyone, it's Andres, Off the Record. Thank you for joining me on this episode. I'm going to be doing a reflection. Tends to be a somber reflection when thinking back on 9/11, and this will be one of those. But I am not reflecting on the 9/11 incident that you're probably thinking of, because there's a second 9/11 incident which occurred that many people are still not exactly familiar with. And that has to do with the Benghazi, Libya attacks on the U.S. consulate and secret CIA base, aka Annex, on September 11th, 2012. The eeriness about all this is it occurred 11 years to the day as an anniversary. So the original 9/11 attack of 2001 happened on a Tuesday. So did this one on a Tuesday, 11 years later. The popular story about this goes, what the media said and the administration under Obama said, that this was a protest that was instigated by some YouTube video that was run here in the United States, and that's what led to the ultimate violent protest that resulted in the deaths of an American U.S. ambassador, in this case Chris Stevens, an IT guy named Sean Smith, and eventually when the attack from the consulate moved 1 mile over to the secret CIA base, resulted in 2 GRS operators' deaths, not to mention those that were wounded as a result. So who are the GRS? GRS stands for Global Response Staff. Think of them as independent contractors to the CIA. These are ex-military. They continue serving our country, but at the private level as opposed to the public level. They have to work like basically a company. So they're independent contractors for the CIA. They have to brand their own insurance, and they're obligated to a contract. So with all that being said, I'm going to be jumping between the event and a film that basically chronicles all this, named 13 Hours, that I highly recommend you watch. So this Off the Record episode might come across as a Critic Corner episode, where Critic Corner's my other podcast where I talk movies and stuff, but believe me, it's not. What I just want to highlight is that for anybody that wants to get an idea of what this was like from the perspective of the ones that were on the ground, 13 Hours might be one of the best recreations of an event that you might ever experience. The attack on the consulate, because it wasn't really an embassy, it was basically like a villa with a small State Department staff of armed personnel, which basically had some pistols and maybe some rifles. February 17th, or the acronym, shorter phrase, Feb 17. Feb 17th was basically like these militia groups that were being guns for hire also, and were being used as security for the United States on behalf of the Libyan government. So these guys were the ones that were being relied upon to protect U.S. interests, and some of them either weren't paid enough to put their lives on the line, or their hearts weren't in it. So when the attacks happened, these guys fled, and it was up to just a handful of DOD guys, the State Department, to hold off what they couldn't, this onslaught of waves of attacks on the consulate. And 1 mile away in the secret CIA base were the main 6 Global Response Staff guys that you're going to know. I'm just going to call them the GRS operators, okay? So these GRS dudes, they are there, and they're 1 mile away. They're contracted to work with the CIA. And as soon as this crap starts going down, they're like, we got to go. We got to go help Americans. They're under attack. And they could see it from where they are. It's only a mile away, and they could hear and see the firefight. And you're like, holy smokes, that's a U.S. ambassador over there. The problem was that these guys weren't there to help Americans. They were there as security guards or bodyguards for the CIA, under contract with them and for them. They were held back by the CIA. The CIA station chief did not allow them to go, and 2 of them were witness to the CIA station chief saying, stand down. Now, the official per government side of the story, and to this day, they say that never happened. They didn't tell them to stand down, blah, blah, blah. These guys were there. They're the ones that put their lives on the line, not the CIA. So I believe these guys, they risked everything to try to save the ambassador. And unfortunately, the American casualties happened before they could get there in time. But they were able to recover sensitive material to maybe destroy it later, however it would be, and just try to get whoever they can to return them back to the CIA base, hunker down and get ready for the next anticipated waves of attacks, because these were not peaceful protests. This was an armed attack of just of militants, terrorists, whatever, that were coming at them. And so it went that once the attacks began to the moment that they finally left Libyan soil, it took 13 hours. That's where the name comes from, 13 hours. There's a book by, oh my goodness, I'm forgetting the name, but I'm going to tag it on the show notes of this episode of www.theandrewsegovia.com so you can check it yourself. Ended up writing the book along with three of the guys named Tonto, Oz, and Tig. Those are the nicknames. I know them best as that way. And they're the ones that were basically telling the story. These guys ended up losing their CIA clearance, so they couldn't get CIA work anymore. Oz suffered a gruesome injury and required multiple surgeries to get the use of his hand back. But with all that being said, just these guys were forgotten, you know. And I think that's where the movie that's also forgotten, that needs to be reflected upon by people, because Michael Bay gets a lot of flack for being Michael Bay, right? So Michael Bay, he can overdo a lot of things, and oh my goodness, he always does the patriotic military shots. You know, it's like he over exaggerates and makes the soldiers look one way or another. See, that's why when I saw 13 Hours and I felt it was a different visceral experience compared to other military movies, like, there's something different about this movie. And the only critics I cared to hear from were my friends in the armed forces that are both active and retired. I asked them, can you watch that and give me some feedback? I want to know what you honestly think. And some of them are movie critics, so when they get back, they thought like, no, I don't want to see that. It's a Michael Bay movie. So one of them finally watched it, and he weighed in on it and told me that that was actually pretty spot on. I'm like, that's the kind of constructive criticism, to be able to say they got this right. And I think that's why this film always gets me. It's the only military movie that engages me, it angers me, it makes me cry, and demands that I watch it all over again. This isn't an action romp, okay? It's a build-up, and then when the action happens, it happens, but you really feel this. Michael Bay did something special to put us there. So when I've watched almost every single documentary I could get my hands on. I have the special edition Blu-ray. I went through everything along with my wife because she loves this. So we watched everything. And besides this, I saw the original Fox News coverage before this movie, before the book was even written. So these guys broke cover to tell their story because the government was lying. They were lying about this thing. Of course they were. But man, I get angry about this stuff, and I don't want to dive into the whole political part of it, but let's just say I am just outraged that we literally left Americans to die. And if these 6 guys were not there, man, there would be a lot more body bags for sure. One of the GRS operators that gave his life wasn't even on the ground in Benghazi. He was 400 miles away in Tripoli, the other U.S. Embassy that was in Libya. Glenn Doherty, I hope I pronounced his last name right. He was the one that basically was the first and only one to respond to anything. He's the one that was organizing any gun that he can get. He got a couple of Delta Force and some other guys together, was able to commandeer a private jet to be able to fly out, like a private jet, to be able to fly out to Libya, try to get a convoy to be able to get them in and out of the annex to exfil the CIA operators and GRS maybe. He's the only one that got anything done. And by the time he and the crew got to reinforce the CIA base, the guy didn't go looking indoors. The dude went to find a defensive position, not just connect with his guys, but to find a defensive position. And next thing you know it, sure enough, there's the mortar attack, the fatal mortar attack that unfortunately kills Glenn. Literally just getting there. he's taken out of action, and Tyrone Woods, he's also taken out of action. So there's that's where some DOD guys get injured as well. Oz, this is where he has his gruesome injury. It was a mortar attack, and it's just it's sad. But reinforcements from the Libyan government finally arrive, and that's how they're able to be able to get out of there. But that it wasn't done yet, and the movie doesn't show the part that they basically had to do an airport battle, just not only to get to the airport, but to also protect the interests in the airport to get him out of there. And I don't want to go into the ending of how the GRS operators get out of there. I think that's where it gives you an even bigger stomach punch when you watch the film. So I'll let that happen. I'll let you watch it for yourself and draw your own conclusions. But that's what I'm getting at. These guys. These Americans there were forgotten, and I lay this blame at the feet of Hillary Clinton. There's a Predator drone that basically live streamed the whole thing. It's not just like, oh, he said, she said. Dude, it was basically recorded. But hats off to Michael Bay for doing an excellent recreation of it. I did compare and contrast to some of the pictures of the set and from the film compared to the actual pictures. Like, dude, if I were to mix them up, it would be really hard for you to tell which are which, because he did an excellent job recreating the event to get it right and to honor these guys. And I really respect that he did that. But most of all, I truly respect that there are heroes out there. There's a great line in the film said at an emotional time during the film. It's like, I'm proud to know Americans like you. Hell yeah, I'm proud to know there are Americans like that. Just to hear Tonto talk about how every time he watches the movie, he just gets the itch to go back out there. It's like, dude, these guys are built for that, That's amazing. But there were 2 more stars added to the CIA wall. And yeah, Americans died that didn't have to die. That's the way I feel. They didn't have to die, and our government forgot about them, which is terrible. And speaking of forgotten, that's why Oz, Mark Geist, he ended up founding or co-founding an organization called the Shadow Warriors Project. You're probably familiar with the Wounded Warriors Project, but the Shadow Warriors Project is basically targeted to these segments of our veterans that are forgotten, those that never stop serving, basically. And it's a lot of them are GRS. I mean, it's the continuous trauma and trying to fit back in. Some of them don't find their way back in. That's why you hear these unfortunate stories of some of these guys being among our homeless. These are our heroes that defended our rights, that allow us to be able to go to work unimpeded, so to speak. Now, the worst we got to go through is traffic or okay, fine, road rage in California. But besides that, these are the guys that were out there facing certain death. Say what you will about the war on terror. I strongly supported that. But there were those that are trying to come after us. But our boys and gals went out there so they wouldn't have to come here again. And then they're forgotten. Our government's, oh, we support you. It's like, well, I'm back home. Who are you? Like, that's awful. And I've been happy to be able to support in what very little I can to the Shadow Warriors Project. But I recommend that you learn more about them. I'm going to be leaving a link to their website in the show notes accompanying this episode of www.theinvestigova.com. Check it out. Google it also. Shadow Warriors Project. They're on Facebook. They're also on Instagram. If you're able to support them in any way, this is a great cause. And I support companies like Black Rifle Coffee also. They support veteran causes and all that. I heard about Team Rubicon and others. But there's a special... I feel this special place in my heart for the Shadow Warriors out there. And it just pissed me off how the government just continuously lied about it. And still to this day, I give more weight to those that shed blood and stand by what they said, instead of those that have been comfortably hiding behind a stupid desk, never once knowing what it's like to make a paycheck for somebody. All they ever do is take. And where is the help that's gone to these folks? Anyway, that's it for this one. Somber reflection, but just like during the tragedy of 9/11/2001, there were heroics, so we're here in the Benghazi incident attack, and I recommend that you check it out because Michael Bay did an awesome tribute to these men of the GRS. Thank you so much for listening. Check out the film, and I'll see you on the next one.